Okay, so hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Yoon, and today's video I will be doing a hopefully quick and to the point July plus June wrap up. And the reason why I'm including June is because I didn't do one for June because I had only read like 2 to 3 books and I didn't feel like it was enough to kind of count a video, which saying that now I'm like realizing that most of my books have been 3 to 4 books, but I don't remember 2. If I read 3 books, I don't remember 2 of them, so I just didn't feel like it needed a video. But I read 1 book in June that I did want to talk about, but I will mention it here. But let's see, I actually read almost double the amount of books that I normally read each month, and I believe I read 7 books this month, or I read 5 books in July, and then 2 of them were for June, for sure for June at the very least. And let's get started. I read 2 of them were digital and everything else was physical, but 2 of the physical books were part of a book exchange, so I don't have those with me anymore. But yeah, so let's get into it. I also don't remember a lot of what I read, so I'm just gonna go as fast as I can, like whether I liked it or like what I thought about it, if I recommend it or not, I suppose. But first off, in June I read An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, and I think I rated that a 4-star. I didn't have a super fun time with it. It was fun, I didn't love it, and I do think that's a very good book for people who either want to get into fantasy, as it is a standalone and it's a fairly short book as well, or maybe even for those who want to get specifically into like fae fantasy. I think this is a good introductory book to either fantasy or fae, and I thought it was cute. Yeah, that's all I can remember of what I liked. I also can't remember what I didn't like, if I didn't like anything. So that's 1 book that I read, and then the other book I read was one of my favorite books of the year now. It's Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Did I post it? I had a reading blog for this. I believe it's not posted yet. Or is it posted? No, it's not posted because I can't remember what happened to the files. I might post it now since I've like exchanged it. I did buy myself my own copy. But, you know, Yellowface reading blog might pop up. But I read it. I rated this a 4 or like a 4.5 out of 5. I had so much fun. I do recommend this book because it does give you like things to think about, things to mull over, and things to like feel conflicted about. There were some things that I felt like I wasn't sure how to feel, but I did notice them, and from noticing them I didn't know what to feel. Oh, also the biggest pro or plus of this book is how fast of a read this is. Like, it's so easy to just read this in one go. Like, I feel like whether you're a slow reader or not, 3 to 4 hours is all you need to read this book, because of just how gripping, fast-paced, and just like this book's pacing and just writing is. I really think that 3 to 4 hours you'll finish this in that amount of time. But it's a really fun book. I read this during finals week, and then I had to finish it because I just needed to know what happened, and you just can't help but read it as she just keeps doing more and more things that you just can't agree with. It's crazy. But yeah, there are some parts here that I'm personally not sure how to feel about. I might have to mull over it a little bit more, but some things is kind of like the things that were said against either June or Athena. I don't know what she was trying to do with it, but I have seen those critiques that happen against these 2 characters be said against the author herself. So I wasn't really sure what maybe was happening, like what the author might intentionally or unintentionally be trying to do from doing that. But I also enjoyed how meta this book was, especially at the ending. I was mind blown at the end when the realization hit me. But I do recommend this. It's really fun, and it's just so fast paced. I just blew this out of the water. Like, it was so fun and so quick to read, and easy to read too. So those were, for now, my June reads. And wait, was this June too? I don't think so. And then for July, one book I read was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and that one I also rated a 4 out of 5. I did enjoy it. It was really beautifully written. I have not yet read Mexican Gothic by this author, but I want to. Plus, I think it's a recent release, but a horror novel by her also came out, I'm pretty sure. I also want to read that. But Gods of Jade and Shadow, beautifully written. It has one of the most bittersweet endings I've ever read, and I am in denial about what happened. I have made like my own epilogue, my own happy ending in my own mind, because I just cannot accept how the story ended. Like, I did predict it in some way, but I just didn't want it to actually come true. But yeah, I do recommend it. It is a bit slow, and if you're not that into historical fiction, maybe not the best book for you, but it was beautifully written and had a really bittersweet ending. And then the next book, or another book I read, is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This one, I think, warrants a reread, because I read it and I didn't feel as scared as I heard a lot of people say, like that it's scarier than the movie. And I think it's because after reading like analysis and like what other people managed to see, I didn't realize a lot of things that I read were like what makes the story creepy or scary. So I think I'll reread it, or, you know, just read essays about it. I feel like that might be more interesting, which is a thing I never thought I would say. But yeah, that one I wouldn't like enthusiastically recommend it, but if you want to read it, I just say go for it. You know, you might really enjoy it. You might pick up on the things that I didn't. So, and then another book that I read was This Vicious Grace by Emily Thiede. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her last name. And this one, also a 4-star, I believe. I had a lot of 4-star reads this month, unless some were like 3.5 or 3.75, and I just don't remember that I rated them like that. But this one I rated, I think, a 3.5 to a 4. What did I say about this book? Okay, no, it was a 4-star. So it was fun. I really enjoyed the banter between our main character and Dante, the male lead. But I think I was a little bit confused over the world building, and especially the one thing I was confused about was like there's literally a war right on the cusp throughout this book, and I think the summary says it, but people are, so Alessa, that's her name, she's like an oddly strong Finestra, so she kind of overwhelms the Fontes and then ends up killing them. Because of that, some like heretic, like religious heretic, is that some person manages to convince people that she needs to be killed in order to get a new Finestra to like actually be able to help them. But the thing I had a problem with like, how were people expecting, like what were they expecting would happen if they did manage to assassinate her? Like, the way I thought it happened was it comes to a young child and it's like random, but it starts from youth. So I don't know what they were expecting. Like, she's probably a better option than a completely new to this, completely untrained child, and you're gonna throw a child to war. Because there's just not enough time, so maybe they were thinking it would go to somebody who's already an adult, but either way, still untrained, probably not mentally prepared to be at the forefront of this war and everything. So I don't really know what their thought was behind this, which is one thing that confused me. And yeah, it was fun, but I personally don't know if I'm going to read the sequel or not. I feel like it was an interesting cliffhanger, but it did take me a while to go through with this. But I think if you enjoy bodyguard romance, reluctant allies to lovers, like a very summary set story, then you should totally go for this book. And then another book I read was Flowerheart by Bakewell. First of all, look how gorgeous this cover art is. Amazing. Second, I think this was a 3.5 to me because it was cute. I can see it becoming kind of like a series in which it's the same characters but they deal with different things. And it was, yeah, it was fun. It was cute. It didn't have much impact on me. I do think Xavier was the cutest part of the story. He was a really cutie patootie. It was stressful, but not necessarily. It was still pretty kind of like low stakes. This does have pretty, not super graphic, but if you can't handle descriptions of like, this does have slight body horror, so if you're not comfortable with that, please don't read it. I also felt I'm not super good with body horror, especially with the body horror that this book dealt with, which was like, you know, flowers, if that freaks you out. And I did kind of struggle with it, but I would either push through it or skip it. But if you can't handle it at all, this probably is not a good read for you to read. I think one thing that just absolutely shocked me was the fact that Xavier is supposed to be POC. Because I think throughout, and I found that out maybe like 100 pages in the story, like near the end of the story, because he, unless I didn't read it carefully, so it was maybe obvious to other readers, he was just described to have like golden skin, which for me most of the time just tends to be tanned. So I didn't really think of him as POC. I think he's supposed to be Hispanic, but I only found out when his mom speaks to him and calls him mijo, which is like my son in Spanish. And that just, for some reason, that just delivered a huge shock to me, because I was like, he's supposed to be Hispanic? So that was just one thing that did pop out to me. So yeah. And I think this is the last book I read, but it was The Dark Maidens by Rikako Akiyoshi. This one is like a high 4.5 book, because this book was freaking wild, okay? Like, it was so much fun because of all the things that were just being revealed or talked about or speculated. Like, it's so much fun. Okay, so this book I think needs a little bit like background information. So what this book is about is there's this all-girls school, and it's kind of like a prestigious high all-girls school, and there is like known to be an exclusive literature club, and the club president of that is the daughter of the dean of the school, I believe. And she's like the it girl of the school. She is found dead one day, and the literature club, she's like found dead one day, and then rumors start to appear that it was somebody from the literature club. And the literature club has like traditions and stuff that I'll just leave to be a surprise, but they come together for one last time, and each of them wrote a story in which they write a story that shows how they think their club president ended up dead and like who did it. And so I feel like the first two stories were already like making it so crazy, because one story blamed one girl, but then that girl was reading her story next and she reveals or like says something about the previous writer that just completely shifts like who you're supposed to trust or what seems more plausible. It's just so crazy and it's so fun. And there are illustrations throughout the book, so if you like that also, this is also, and it's super short, so it's like a super fast, highly entertaining read. And yeah, so I ended up being kind of right about who I think did it, but I was kind of wrong about it as well, so that was also a ride, and it was just so much fun. I highly recommend that one. But yeah, so that is what I read in June, but mainly July. I hope, oh shoot, wait, this one I didn't count for my reading challenge, but I also read more things for K-Tropathon. So I read Once Upon a K-Prom by Kat Cho. I reread Once Upon a K-Prom. I reread The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I reread Solo Leveling Volumes 2 and 4. And then I reread Lemon by Kwon Yosun. So K-Tropathon was a lot of just rereads because I had read them before. I reread them again to fulfill the prompts for K-Tropathon. And yeah, so that is what I read in June and also mainly July. I hope your guys' reading month went pretty well. I feel like either with the rereads and without the rereads, I had a surprisingly good reading month. It didn't feel like it because I struggled so much to actually pick up a book and just stick to it. So I am surprised. I'm surprised at myself at the fact that I was able to read more than 3 books, and that it ended up being like, how many was it again? 5 books plus, you know, my rereads, which makes it to like 9 or something. I don't know math. But yeah, so this was a surprisingly good reading month. I read a lot more books than I had anticipated, than I expected, than like is normal. I hope to read a lot in the beginning of August before things get really busy, and I probably won't be able to read a lot starting from like maybe around mid-August until then. So I might not be able to put out a lot of content either. It might be more reading vlogs or just weekly vlogs oriented. But yeah, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I said I was going to try to be to the point and make this a short video. Clearly that did not work. But yeah, keep an eye out for, I think I want to do 2 more K-Tropathon vlogs because I did film them. I just need to organize and edit them. So keep an eye out for 2 vlogs for the last 2 weeks of K-Tropathon. I don't know when, but Christy I think should be revealing the bingo winners soon. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Let me know how your month went down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.